Welcome to Cosmic Comics. Today I'm going to be discussing the first appearance of Squadron Sinister and the Grandmaster. This story arc takes place in Avengers Volume 1, Issue 69, published in 1969. Tony Stark is laid up in the hospital in critical condition, and the rest of the Avengers are paying him a visit. While there, Janet Van Dyne, the Wasp, picks up what appears to be a small glowing toy from beneath a cabinet. Her curiosity soon fades, though, as 2 panels later she's throwing the thing in the trash. This toy is actually the Growing Man, who first appeared in Thor issue 140 a couple of years prior. The Growing Man is an android known as a stimuloid whose artificial cells multiply every time he receives a hard blow. S.H.I.E.L.D. has placed a number of bodyguards outside of Tony Stark's room. These gentlemen attempt to stop the now animated Growing Man to no avail. The shots from their blasters are ineffective and only cause the Growing Man to get larger. The Avengers decide to investigate as the Growing Man bursts into Tony Stark's room. The Growing Man gets as far as carrying Tony Stark out of the room before catching a face full of Captain America's shield. I'm not sure why Captain America couldn't wait until Growing Man got outside before starting an all-out brawl, as it doesn't seem like a good idea to fight inside of a hospital. The heroes soon notice that their usual approach, beat the competition into submission, isn't working, as their blows just make their enemy grow. Thor verifies this and lets everybody know that Growing Man is an agent of Kang the Conqueror. And holy shit! This is why you don't fight inside of a hospital. Sure, there are lots of civilians outside, but at least they can run away. An entire quarter of a hospital has been ripped off. This has to make this entire portion of the building incredibly dangerous. Goliath, remembering none of their previous conversation about how the Growing Man works, decides it's a good idea to go man-to-man with the Growing Man. But Goliath ends up growing too fast, and the Growing Man quickly puts him into his place. The Growing Man calls upon the light of the centuries to take him back to Kang. He floats away with Tony Stark. The Avengers then, having no idea what they're doing, jump into the light and tag along. Everybody is sucked into a giant sphere, which then travels through space and time and almost instantaneously deposits them all onto a distant floor. They now lie before Kang the Conqueror. First, I'd like to say I love this artwork. This is an incredibly pleasing to the eye 2-page splash. Secondly, Kang is a character I'd love to go into more detail on, and probably will at some point in time in the future, but the breadth of that venture would take this video series in a completely different direction than I'd like to go right now. It might be 100 videos down the line, but Kang is on my eventually list. Kang informs the Avengers that Growing Man and Tony Stark are still inside the transportation orb. Kang and the Avengers are incapable of speaking more than a few sentences to each other before Thor throws the first punch. The Avengers make short work of Kang's henchmen, and then the Black Panther shows up to tell everybody that the Avengers and Kang have to join forces in order to save the Earth. It would have been nice if he had said something before his friends covered the floor with bodies. There's literally a pile of bodies on the floor. Was T'Challa taking a whiz? Superheroes have to pee sometime, right? I mean, why is it that nobody ever has to step off a mission to drop a deuce? Has anybody in the history of the Avengers had to call out once due to food poisoning? Also, it doesn't make much sense for Kang to send like 20 or 30 guards after them if he needs their help to save the world. Anyway, Kang's lover Ravonna is in a permanent suspended state. She was the woman in the glass case from the giant 2-page spread earlier. Kang has literally put her on a pedestal. So, a year back, Kang was sitting around, being all broody on his throne, wishing that he had the power of life and death so that he might save his lover and give his life meaning once more. Out of seemingly nowhere, a man appears who introduces himself as the Grandmaster. A few quick notes about the Grandmaster. His real name is N'Dwi-Gast, and he is one of the Elders of the Universe. The Elders of the Universe are a collective of the remaining survivors of the first sentient species to evolve after the Big Bang. The Elders of the Universe are each the sole survivor of their planet. They are all near immortal, and finally, they generally all seem to identify as a collective group, although they seldom interact with one another. This storyline doesn't touch on the Grandmaster being an Elder in any way, shape, or form, but it's way too big of a detail not to touch upon. The Grandmaster has continued to appear in the Marvel Universe up to at least the time of the making of this video in mid-2016. Usually he shows up, plays a miniature version of Secret Wars with the fate of the world as the prize to be won, and pitting various superheroes against each other in a fight to the death. Once the festivities are over, he leaves in search of the next game or whatever he does with his spare time. The Grandmaster offers King the chance to make his wish for the power of life and death to come true. All King has to do is beat the Grandmaster in a game similar to chess. But the stakes are that if King loses, well, I don't want to mess this up, so I'm going to use the direct quote. "If you lose, there shall not be mere death, but oblivion." That line makes me smile every time because of the acknowledgement of oblivion. I will go into much more detail on the host of cosmic entities, including death and oblivion, in later videos, but for now I love the acknowledgement that oblivion is much worse to have to submit to than Lady Death. In the next few panels, the Grandmaster makes a show of power by consigning the new guards rushing into oblivion. Props again on the art in this issue. Seldom do we see lackeys with real emotion on their faces, and these two look so horribly sad and terrified as the Grandmaster erases them from existence. Kang informs the Avengers that the battle he agreed to takes place within the hour, and that he needs the Avengers to stand by his side. Captain America agrees as long as Tony Stark is returned to his time and his life is spared. Kang agrees to the terms and returns Tony to the hospital. Almost immediately afterward, the Grandmaster arrives. Note that at this time, the Grandmaster claims that he has been on a winning streak of 1,000 wins without a loss. 3 of the Avengers then fade away with a lift of the Grandmaster's hand and reappear on a weird game stand that then turns into the Earth. The Avengers then find themselves on solid ground once more with what appears to be Earth under their feet. The 3 Avengers spot 4 figures peering down at them from above. This final panel is the first appearance of Squadron Sinister, and in many ways it is also the first appearance of Dr. Spectrum, Hyperion, and Nighthawk, even though these are different individuals than the members of Squadron Supreme. Additionally, the Wizard is present, but he's actually based on a previous iteration of a Marvel superhero, and he is now a supervillain who has taken on the Wizard's name. Next episode, the games begin, and we also learn about the origins of Squadron Sinister and its various members. Thanks for watching. I'm out.